Dude! There, that's good enough. Yeah, my mic's glitching. I got 3,800 views. No. I'm buying this tomorrow. Yeah, I'm buying this tomorrow. I'm getting a full balloon. I got to pick out my gifts with my name's family. Fly away. I got some steel shoe boots. I mean steel toe boots. I don't know what I should buy. I think I'm going to wait. Honestly, the thing I'm most interested in is getting this. I don't think I should wait. Next 100 V-Bucks next season, you know, I'll be able to get next season's battle pass. So like, I'll be able to get infinite. Oh yeah, I haven't bought any. Buy some levels, but we need to choose today. This ends on March 19th, and next month by. Asian by. Asian by. My friends, kids at school call this one kid Asian dude. Asian by. I don't know. I can do that. I can do that eyebrow. Rolly, rolly, rolly. I would show you. I'm trying to. Next we're gonna go and watch, let's the wherever that we're building. After this one. This is my first game on, by the way. I know y'all probably can't even hear me right now. Can y'all? Nope. Nope. Can't even hear me. Hello? There. I'm not landing tilted here. I mean, never, ever. No, Jesus. Unless I get super. 2, 3.
Let's take a look at some of our particular duos here as well. First and foremost, Pondo Canyon. We have Brett and users here. We know them so well. Obviously, we saw an EU earlier on, SBG, that 2 teams managed to rotate out of that POI and qualify. Why are they special? Why are we excited to see them perform today?
So I think they've been at the top for a long time, and they're going to look to remain there. We've seen Threats, one of the best aimers in the region. Obviously, Users has won an FNCS, so he feels comfortable in this position, and their experience is going to lay the groundwork for the rest of their game, because a lot of people are probably nervous today, but knowing both of them, they've been here before, they should feel comfortable having that experience in their bag.
Well, and I think one of the things that they can rely on, too, is they're in this pool of first 50 duos. And while there's still plenty of spots up for grabs, and we will be backfilling those duos who qualified when we play tomorrow and on Saturday, or tomorrow and on Sunday, if you look at it, the teams who play today have a very solid chance of getting an opportunity to go through, whether it's winning a game or on consistency. You have so many chances to put it all together, and that leans a little bit towards veteran experience, which we saw over in EU. While there are a couple of new names up on that board in the semifinals, a lot of them were players who had been there before.
Yeah, that experience obviously always makes such a massive difference. And one team actually who we were kind of surprised it didn't qualify through in our qualifier 1 and 2 here. Cold and Centered as well. SBG, you even picked these guys a couple of times in predictions. It didn't happen, but here's hoping it happens potentially this weekend. What can they do? How can they change things up and get through to finals?
So if they have the Cavern all to themselves, they're going to be really strong on their loot. And that was their problem in the first and second qualifier. First qualifier, they narrowly missed. Second qualifier, their early game didn't allow them to progress. I feel like they were kind of stalling out and not really getting into that strong position. So going Covert instead of Sleepy, that should be a really good play for them, Sundown.
And I mean, we saw in EU too, 2 teams who were able to run it out of Covert, and when they were able to win off the drop, Thomas and Tayson as well as Vino and Joe, they just clean ran through the lobby, and yes, they had to make the individual plays, but Sentinel and Cold are more than capable of that. So the question becomes the rest of the lobby. Do you just let them have it early and hope they win out so they're out of the pool immediately? Or do you go and challenge them every single time, knowing that ever since kind of that unfortunate Game 3 in the first qualifier, they've been on a little bit of a downward trend. They've been struggling a bit.
Yeah, they have. I mean, it's a really interesting point you make about EU as well. We saw, obviously, Thomas and Tayson going through there in that particular POI when it was contested. Once they've qualified through, then Vino's duo immediately afterwards qualifies as well when the POI is therefore Tayson and Thomas are nowhere to be seen anymore because they've already qualified. So that's going to happen throughout the course of the competition as well. Teams will qualify and suddenly things really open up for some of our duos. One duo we're all looking forward to seeing compete today as well is Clicks and Day. They're synonymous with Fortnite. We all know them so well. But SBG not gone through just yet. The Jones is looking like where they're going to be dropping. How can they make sure and solidify their place in the finals?
So watching them play is like a bowl in a china shop. They just run through the lobby and knock things out of the way. And it seems like sometimes when they try and play a more traditional style, it's less effective. Just letting them go out there and run through people, go crazy, that seems to be the most effective way that I've seen them play, because otherwise it makes no sense.
And don't forget, Adam, it's NRG Day and NRG Clicks, both, well, Day recently signing and then Clicks re-signing through, announcing that recently. So got a little bit of the duo synergy going through. I'm sure they're going to be happy with that. But we've yet to see them put it all together. And I think one of the biggest things on the flip side, yes, normally we want to see them kind of push through, try and go get those eliminations. But in a state where victory rounds are almost more important and they're not necessarily known for their consistency, I'd rather see them kind of put the pedal to the metal and really try and win one of these games early.
Yeah, me too. And plus, it's great for us watching at home as well. And for us here on the desk.
Content, baby.
Yeah, it's content, baby. That's exactly right. But I think you're right. I think they're a bit of wind in their sails. Obviously, the NRG announcement as well. Hopefully, that'll give you that mix with the experience. We should see them go through. We think. We hope. Who knows what could happen? Let's take a look at some of the off-spawn fights in particular here as well. Let's look at Macwood and Nico, this kind of head-to-head here, which is looking very exciting indeed. SPG, why is Daily Bugle a great POI to look at? I mean, obviously we know it's synonymous with the likes of the web shooters and such, but it's a big POI, and these guys going head-to-head.
Yeah, so if you ask either party, Nico's team or Macwood's team, they've won off spawn every single time. The other team hasn't. But, you know, it's a little closer than that. And it seems like recently Nico's team has had the edge on those off spawn battles, but they don't always fight off spawn. Sometimes they go ahead and try and take what loot they can get. And when that happens, honestly, neither team is really getting good enough loot. Bugle is a big POI, but it's not big enough to support two teams, in my opinion.
Bugle is such a catch-22 because you never want to give somebody uncontested, because alone it becomes such a power point. But the fights there off of spawn are just, at least me personally, and even watching some of the VODs, they are brutal. There's so much that goes into it, the different angles you can reposition, trying to be aware of when somebody can sneak up on you. Even just the drop pass off of the bus are different compared to everywhere else on the map, because you have to be just low enough to clear that mountain, but just high enough to hit some of the 50-50 spawns. It makes everything just a little bit more difficult. It's like, how many times do you want to risk trying to go there, but then the one time you get it for free, it's just so worth it.
Oh, couldn't agree more as well. And plus, you know, the webs everywhere, you can get around the POI very quickly and very easily and efficiently as well. So that's going to be a good one. Obviously, another off-spawn probably have to take a look at as well. Aegis versus Smite. This is going to be really exciting as well. We know these players, again, so well here. Greasy Grove, that's going to be an interesting one to watch out for.
Yeah, this has been Sprite and Nounsy versus Agers and Rise. This happened all qualifier 2. And it was essentially just those 50-50s off spawn. Literally just land somewhere and then start fighting. And that was the entirety of it. Now, allegedly, Sprite is deciding, I'm going to go somewhere else, but you never know. He doesn't seem like one of those players that is going to walk away from those off spawn fights. So even if he's saying he may go elsewhere Sundown, I think Greasy's going to be conned.
And Sprite's somebody who has one of the most historic clutch plays. We talked about the clutch potential in duos being a little bit easier. Well, he had no problem doing it in trios as well. I just don't think when you do have so many limited matches, yes, it is a 5-game series rather than a 6. It's slightly shorter than what these guys are used to playing in the set lobbies. You don't want to even throw maybe 1 or 2 games away, knowing that Agers and Rise are pretty solid off a drop. I would put them in the above average, if not a little bit higher than that, in terms of their ability to fight in those situations. And I don't think rolling the dice is worth it when you have 1 less game.
Totally. It's all about the mind games, man. All about the mind games. I love it. We would love to see it as well, because it makes things more, obviously more exhilarating for us watching. Talking of the map and POIs and such, we've mentioned a few of them there. Let's take a closer look here at the map specifically, and some real places to highlight, and what's so exciting about it for our players as well. Check this out.
I think Bugle is probably the best spot on the map right now.
There is like a lot of chests, a lot of ammo, a lot of everything.
Tilted towers, there's just so much floor loot and ammo boxes and pepper boxes, so you just always come out really stacked. And then Sleepy Sound just has a lot of pepper boxes and a lot of floor loot, so you always come out with a lot of launch pads.
I really enjoyed Tilted coming back. It was very fun to land there again.
I actually land Tilted. That's my drop spot. Duos.
Tilted is like one of my favorite spots in the game, like forever.
It's going to be very good and competitive. A lot of players are going to have it uncontested.
And it's all modernized and changed into this current, into the current way the game's played. And it's really cool.
That nostalgia, I'd say.
I cannot be more happy.
So I think people are making a mistake by not landing Sanctuary, because that Mythic AR there is definitely the best AR in the game.
If you can capitalize and get Sanctuary to yourself and maybe even get that Mythic AR in a Grand Finals, I just know how good it is.
Camp Canal is a really underrated spot.
I think Vigo's definitely the most slept on POI. I didn't even think of it in my top 3. Probably is honestly top 3. Is a crazy POI.
Best method to rotate on the map is definitely using Spider-Man's.
I would definitely say Spider-Man's 100%.
It can get you across the map in probably a couple minutes. Nothing can do that right now.
The map awareness is definitely like really important, because like if you don't know where you are or where you're going or like where it could pull, like you're gonna just be in a pretty bad situation for like the next zone pull.
So you really got to be aware and understand the map.
A good map habit would be always to mark where the zone goes and what side you want to be on.
Oh, you need to always 100% be aware of where the zone is.
Marking it is a huge thing, and I think that like that alone has saved me so many times because I can just see where the zones is and I'm not guessing.
Because if a zone pulls far and you're in a really bad spot, it could end your game.
Yeah, I would say the best tip to find a drop spot for your playstyle is really find where your strengths are in fighting.
Look for something that's not too heavily contested. It's kind of difficult in this current meta.
If you're really a team that needs to play for surge and really passive, I think you go for a center map, so a center spot, so that you can loot quick, get some surge, and then rotate and don't need to fight anymore.
And then if you want to like fight and you're really good at fighting, you want to crap ton of kills, then I'd probably something like a Lucy, Tilted, Chonker, Daily.
I think Duo is definitely the best spot for an aggressive player, and Sanctuary. Both of those drop spots are really, really good.
Don't be scared to land somewhere shambles. If you can master a spot that's really, really good, then do it.
Again, like having the insight and the intel from the players there as well, even the basics, just remind you to kind of do these things in order, and hopefully you could become a much better Fortnite player. We'll see. I don't think I'll ever make it to CS Finals. That'll never happen. And maybe you guys could. SPG Sundown. I mean, there could be a duo right there in the making. Let's talk about predictions. I could just see shaking heads. Let's just talk about predictions as well, and who we think is going to go all the way. Now, I had to go for Nounsy and Sprite simply because I'm working to the data here, fellas, okay? Now, I know Nounsy, Chapter 2, Season 6, and Sprite, Chapter 2, Season 6, and Season 8 as well, managed to go through in the semi-final kind of reboot format, and that is why I'm working the numbers. That's why I think they could go all the way today. SPG, walk us through your choice.
All right, so we're going head-to-head. Well, if the fight at Greasy happens, Agers and Rise are my pick today. I think they're a very strong duo, super consistent throughout all the Cash Cups, and they're going to be keen to play that high ground position that has been so strong. We also know that Monster is going with Knifer and Vila over at the Llama split that we've seen do so well on multiple regions. But Sundown, who you got?
Yet again, like I said, a broken clock will eventually be right, keeping the momentum going 33 batch vamp style. We saw him in a little bit of that content piece, but I genuinely believe in this duo. I think they belong in finals. I think this season is going to be one where they're going to put a stamp on it. However, they have to get there first, and I think eventually predicting them will undo the caster's curse. But now looking over at the other side there, Vivid having Scented and Cold, I mean, no surprise behind that. They played phenomenally. They were so close in that first qualifier, but they need to pick it up a little bit. Their recent results haven't been on par with how Scented wants to play, and you can sense a little bit of the frustration creeping in, which a victory royale here would totally wash all of that away.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, and you know, I applaud you for sticking with Pamstone and Thatch there, Sundown. You just eventually they'll make it. Eventually.
I mean, they have to. I know. I feel so bad because it's almost like a semi-caster curse. I predicted I batched back down at Streamer Bowl 3. Pamstow ended up winning it in that regard. But then watching their individual performances, they've had it there. They've had results in the Cash Cups. They've made it to the end games, but there's just always one little thing that's missing. And I'm hoping that you can see the vibes when they're talking there. They have the team chemistry. They just have to put it all together. And then once it hits, I think it's going to be very good. And I'm hoping today is the day, but we'll see.
They're absolutely capable, 100%. I think that's, I think points-wise as well, they've kind of qualified, they're one of the highest point-scoring teams as well, particularly in Qualifier 1, so they've definitely got what it takes. SBG as well, very quickly, looking at the teams here as well, obviously we know that the Victory Royale today are key, they get those 1,000 points and kind of guarantee you a place in finals. But will any teams be focusing on the points themselves, trying to get those eliminations and standings points rather than going for the VR? Or is it just a case of, I'm just going to try and get that Victory Royale, get myself into finals, and then be done with it?
It's a great question. I feel like most teams are going to be playing for the win, and then maybe in that 8th or 9th zone, you're starting to be in a position where, like, I don't have the win condition in my inventory in order to do this. So then you switch up, you play for placement, because not every game you're going to be absolutely stacked to try and go for that win play or that win condition. And that's honestly what I'm gonna go with. I want to see some teams play with some flops, some heal plays, maybe even those perfect pads onto height. Really haven't seen those yet.
That's true. That's true. That's true. I mean, boys, we've got so much to break down, so much to talk about in the future. But game 1 is imminent. The battle bus is almost ready. It's time to throw over to our Titan friends. It's time for MDF and Vivid to take the reins and takes into game 1. The hype is real. Let's do this, guys. Semi-final time. Let's do it.
We appreciate the quick toss there, Adam. Yes, the games are getting ready. It's Monster D-Face and Vivid here on the horn. Once again, we'll be calling all of the action. I mean, Vivid, the stage has been set. We got a couple predictions out there, but the truth is 11 players are going to move on. There's a really good chance, I would say the best of the best that deserve it will make it to that next stage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's what these semifinals are all about, right? Finding the players that are the best that haven't actually made it through those first 2 qualifiers yet. And let me tell you something, after watching EU, I am absolutely so excited to watch these games because I feel like every single game, all 5 games over in the EU region, came down to the wire, right? We didn't really know who was going to win it all. I was like, I saw somebody on height in like the 7th zone. I was like, oh, they got this. And then like 2 seconds later, somebody else is on height. So I'm really, really excited for the games today.
And that's the difference, right? We get to see it all unfold here, guys. Sounds like the battle bus is just about ready. So let's go ahead and toss it on over to game number 1.
All right, and we are off. Game number 1. It all comes down to the semifinals. Will you secure yourselves a spot in the grand finals of this first duo FNCS of the year? And as we can see, we are going back to the Nico Polarized versus Donnie and Macwood at the Daily Bugle. Now, last weekend we saw this happen over both of the qualifiers. And let me tell you something. I feel like Polarized and Nico basically swept the floor with Macwood and Donnie.
They absolutely did. The one thing that was different, though, but the last time was that Macwood and Donnie were aiming at that main building, so we'll see the differing of the drop stop. But hopping on over here, 20 and Reciprocal already kicking things off with a nice little knock right there. These knocks still matter, guys. I know we want to root for folks to pull that victory royale, but being consistent, getting these big points, this is huge, and it's going to play into consistency. The story of consistency is so important this weekend here today. So look at that, quick 6 points. That's going to be a swing in for them. And now on over to Zen, Bacon, and Nerfface. We've seen fights here before, but it looks like this is one of those earlier engagements that all teams might just be in shambles. Just look at the HP pool. Doesn't look too good for anyone here.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game here in these early game fights. You know, we're coming into this, right, and you don't really know who you're going to be matched up with yet. So this game 1 could be kind of a testing ground for a lot of these players. They could be expecting it to be uncontested, and, you know, being contested could be a little bit of a surprise, so making some adjustments. But, you know, it's nothing that they can't handle. They are going to get used to it very, very fast because they have to.
You absolutely do. Right now, it's a bit of a standoff here. Shotgun shots going down below. Nerfface is going to have to look for a new angle. That's a floor take from the opponents down low, so they're definitely on guard. No one's got the advantage here, although they had a little bit of high ground, so they're going to go and decide to back on off. Not worth throwing this first game out of the window. Little did they know there is a team nearby as well. Those shots there making a little too close for comfort. And think about it, right? 5 games, a lot shorter, a lot less opportunity than the usual 6-game weekend. So, you know, if there's an opportunity that presents itself or there's time to kind of extend your tournament play, you probably want to take that, right? Be a little bit more passive and try to make the best of your Fortnite game.
Yeah, and as we see here, Avery and Muzz looking like they're uncontested at Shifty Safs, but if we pay attention to the map, there are a couple players lurking around the outer rim of this POI. We know that Avery and Muzz are 2 really well-rounded players. Muzz coming over from the OCE region, performing very, very well on what a lot would consider a harder region in the NA East caps here. But Muzz and Avery just going to be farming up. You know, they've done this route probably 1,000 times since the season started, and if we look at the outer rim of this POI again, it doesn't look like they are too interested in coming in, invading Muzz and Avery's space here. But bang, you know, a player on the outer rim there, not a player to underestimate. And we heard a lot about these guys on the pre-show there. Clicks and Day. A bull in a china shop, I believe is what SPG called these two.
Yeah, definitely. This is that what's the word I'm looking for? Wrecking ball type duo. You get Day into end game. He's gonna go ahead. He's gonna be breaking down builds quite figuratively and literally in games with the SMG. You know how he does. He is just a force to be reckoned with. This is a fight going down here. So, okay, let's break this down a little bit right now. We've seen Scented and Cold try this before. I would say with some success, right? Rotating out of Sleepy Sounds, getting here, and catching the drop on Covert Cavern teams, and most importantly, it's for this very, very precious metal, right? One of the problems with their drop is that they don't get all the resources to get comfortable, and even now, just 200 wood, like how do you end up here with only 200 wood and barely any brick to work with, right? The surrounding areas.
I'll see y'all later.